Welcome to the Assembly Committee. Welcome to the Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Assemblymember Cole.
Here.
Dickman.
Here.
Edgeworth. Gonzalez. Hibbets.
Here.
Howdigy.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Monroe Moreno.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Nadeem.
Present.
Chair Mosca.
And I am here. Thank you so much. Welcome to the audience in Carson City. We do have an overflow room here today. We welcome you as well. Welcome those joining by video conference in Las Vegas and those listening to us over the internet. Thank you all for coming a little early today as we have a busy agenda today. And before we begin, I would like to make several housekeeping announcements. Please silence your electronic devices. If you wish to testify, please sign in at the table by the door and provide a business card to the committee secretary. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state and spell your name for the record and state any affiliation. Spelling your name really helps our committee secretaries. Then turn off the microphone each time you're done speaking. There are hard copies of the meeting materials available for members of the public. Members of the public may also access electronic copies of the materials on the Nevada Legislature's website. Public comment will be taken at the end of the meeting. Each person will be limited to 2 minutes. In addition, the public may submit written testimony to the committee up to 24 hours after the meeting. We expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if we may not agree with one another's positions. Committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents. Please do not view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. And as you can see, we are grateful we have accessibility-related measures today for our hearing. And with that, let us get started. So committee members, we're going to first start with a committee BDR introduction of BDR 24-570, which revises provisions relating to elections. Members, as a reminder, a vote in favor of introducing a BDR does not imply a commitment to support the measure later. All the action does is allow the BDR to become a bill and enter the legislative hearing process. I will entertain a motion to include BDR 24-570.
Second.
I have a motion from Assemblymember Monroe Moreno, and I have a second from Assemblymember Howdigy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. The motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so our next item of business today is our very first work session here in Legislative Operations and Elections. So it is not customary for the committee to take testimony or otherwise rehear the bills during a work session. However, I may invite a witness to come forward for clarification or questions during our consideration of a measure. Our committee's policy analyst, Ms. Prohl, will be walking us through the work session document. And Ms. Prohl has a lot of reading to do today, so we thank you in advance. You may begin when you are ready.
Thank you, Chair. Haley Prohl, Committee Policy Analyst for the record. As nonpartisan staff of the LCB, I neither support nor oppose any measures before you today. I am here to just walk you through the work session document. The first measure for the committee's consideration today is Assembly Joint Resolution 6, sponsored by Assemblymember Miller and heard in committee on February 25th. Assembly Joint Resolution 6 urges Congress to enact legislation to extend the Social Security Fairness Act to apply from the month of December 2013 forward, and for the President to sign that legislation into law. There are no amendments. And as a reminder to the committee of what the Social Security Fairness Act is, it was federal legislation signed into law on January 5th of this year and applies to monthly Social Security benefits from December 2023 forward. The act repeals the government pension offset and windfall elimination provision formulas used to calculate Social Security benefits, which reduced or eliminated Social Security benefits for people also receiving a pension based on work not covered by Social Security. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Prohl. Members, are there any questions on AJR 6? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion on AJR 6.
So moved. Second. Just
Uh,
move to do pass.
Oh, sorry, thank you. I will entertain a motion to do pass AJR 6. Thank you. My first time as well. Assemblymember Assemblymember Hadigi has made a motion to do pass AJR 6. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Assemblymember Monroe Moreno. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, so we have nays from Assemblymember Hibbets, Assemblymember Cole, Assemblymember Edgeworth, and Assemblymember Dickman. The motion carries. I will now assign the floor statement to Assemblymember Miller. Thank you. Ms. Prohl, next bill, please.
Thank you, Chair. The next measure on work session today is Assembly Joint Resolution 7, sponsored by Assembly Members Watts, Mosca, and Hibbets, and Senators Wen and Stone, heard in committee on February 27th. Assembly Joint Resolution 7 proposes to amend the Nevada Constitution to reserve to a Citizens Commission on compensation for certain elected officers the power to establish salaries and benefits for members of the legislature, the governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, treasurer, controller, and attorney general. The resolution provides for the terms and appointments of commission members and requires the commission to hold at least 4 public meetings before filing a schedule of salaries and benefits. After the commission files its initial schedule of salaries and benefits not later than January 1, 2029, the commission shall file subsequent schedules not later than January 1 of each odd-numbered year that may not increase or decrease the salary of any elected officer whose salary and benefits are under the commission's purview by more than 15%. The resolution also proposes to amend the Nevada Constitution to repeal the limits on the number of days a legislator may receive compensation during a regular or special session, and the authority of the legislature to provide by law, under certain circumstances, for increasing or diminishing the salaries or compensation of constitutional officers. Assemblymember Watts proposed the attached amendment, which seeks to make the following changes. Number 1, revise the submission date of the initial schedule of salaries and benefits to not later than January 1, 2031. 2, require meetings of the commission to be held in locations across the state. And 3, add additional sponsors to the bill who are all listed on the attached amendment. And a special note for this resolution, if it is passed by the 2025 legislature, it must also be passed in identical form by the next legislature and then approved by voters in an election before the proposed amendments to the Nevada Constitution become effective. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass AJR 7.
So moved.
I have a motion from Assemblymember Hadigi, and I have a second from Assemblymember Monroe Moreno. Are there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion carries, and I will assign the floor statement to Assemblymember Watts, who is in the back. Thank you. Next bill, please.
Thank you, Chair. Assembly Bill 148 is sponsored by Assemblymember Hafen, heard in committee on March 11th. Assembly Bill 148 requires city and county clerks to distribute sample ballots to registered voters before the applicable deadline to distribute mail ballots. Assemblymember Yeager proposed the attached amendment to add himself as a primary sponsor of the bill and to amend NRS 293-269911 to require mail ballots to be distributed not earlier than the 5th Monday before an election and not later than the 4th Monday before an election. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass AB 148.
So moved.
I have a motion from Vice Chair Gonzalez. Do I have a second? A second from Assemblymember Monroe Moreno. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion carries, and I will sign the floor statement to Assemblymember Hafen, also in the back of the room. Thank you. Next bill, please.
Thank you, Chair. The next measure for the committee's consideration is Assembly Bill 256, sponsored by Assembly Members LaRue, Hatch, Gonzalez, Roth, Moore, and Anderson et al., heard in committee on March 4th. Assembly Bill 256 directs the Legislative Commission to appoint a Regional Rail Transit Advisory Working Group to conduct a study during the 2025-2026 legislative interim concerning the development of regional rail transit in Clark and Washoe counties. The advisory working group shall meet monthly and submit to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Growth and Infrastructure on or before July 1, 2026, an actionable plan to develop regional rail transit in Clark and Washoe counties, and a report of its findings and any recommendations for legislation. The advisory working group consists of 11 members in total, all listed below. I will not read through them all, but they are there because the amendment proposes to revise the membership. Assemblymember LaRue Hatch proposed the attached amendment, which seeks to, 1, add Assembly Members Flanagan and Cole as co-sponsors of the bill, 2, amend the study directive and objectives by replacing instances of Clark and Washoe counties in subsections 1, 4, and 8A of Section 1 with regional communities across the state. And 3, revise the membership of the advisory working group by adding 1 member who represents a rural county, another local government in a rural county, or a representative from an organization representing multiple rural counties. Adding 1 member who is a resident of a county other than Clark and Washoe who has an interest or expertise in rail transit. And replacing the member who represents a private business engaged in the business of rail or transit with 1 member who represents a chamber of commerce or trade association. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass AB 256.
So moved.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Gonzalez. Do we have a second? Second from Assemblymember Moore. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion carries, and I will assign the floor statement to Assemblymember LaRue Hatch. Next bill, please, Ms. Prohl.
Thank you, Chair. The next measure is Assembly Bill 261, sponsored by this committee on behalf of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, heard in committee on March 4th. Assembly Bill 261 requires county and city clerks, if contacting a voter, to resolve a reasonable question of fact as to whether the voter's signature on a mail ballot matches his or her signature in the records of the clerk, to affirmatively ask whether the voter would like to update his or her signature in the records of the clerk. If the voter agrees to such update, the signature provided to the clerk becomes the voter's signature for voter registration purposes. Additionally, AB 261 requires the Secretary of State, rather than county clerks, to mail the notice that allows a registered voter to indicate political party affiliation and decline to register to vote or have his or her voter registration updated, among other things, to persons who complete an automatic voter registration transaction. There are no amendments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? I will entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 261.
So moved.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Gonzalez. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Assemblymember Hadagi. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor say nay. And we have nays from Assemblymember Hibbets, Assemblymember Cole, Assemblymember Edgeworth, and Assemblymember Dickman. The motion carries, and I will assign the floor statement to Assemblymember Nadeem. And we can go to the next bill, please.
Thank you, Chair. The next measure is Assembly Bill 262, sponsored by this committee on behalf of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, heard in committee on February 27th. Assembly Bill 262 authorizes an election board officer or trainee, voting board officer or counting board officer to choose to work as a volunteer who receives no compensation. The bill amends the Las Vegas City Charter, Airport Authority Act for Battle Mountain, and Airport Authority Act for Carson City to similarly authorize an officer appointed for certain special elections to choose to work as a volunteer who receives no compensation. Additionally, AB 262 authorizes a person who has been convicted of a felony involving theft or fraud to be employed by a voter registration agency, even if his or her duties will include registering voters, or appointed as a field registrar. There are no amendments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? I will entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 262.
So moved.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Gonzalez. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Assemblymember Nadeem. Any discussions on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Nay.
And we have nays from Assemblymember Hibbets, Assemblymember Cole, Assemblymember Edgeworth, and Assemblymember Dickman. The motion carries, and I will assign the floor statement to Assemblymember Moore. Next bill, please.
Thank you, Chair. The next bill is Assembly Bill 287, sponsored by Assembly Members Gonzalez and Monroe Moreno, heard in committee on March 6th. Assembly Bill 287 requires a vote recount for an office if the difference between the highest number of votes cast for a candidate and the next highest number of votes cast for a candidate is 0.25% or less. Defeated candidates may demand a vote recount if the difference between the number of votes cast for the candidate with the highest number of votes and the votes cast for the defeated candidate is 5% or less. The bill also eliminates the authority of a voter to request a vote recount for a ballot question and instead requires a vote recount for a ballot question to be conducted if the difference between the results of the ballot question being approved or disapproved is 0.25% or less. There are two proposed amendments, both attached. The First Amendment from the Office of the Secretary of State contains the following changes. In Section 1, subsection B, replacing the word person with filing officer, as it is the filing officer who would determine the cost of the recount. In Section 1, subsection B, replacing the term estimated costs of the recount with estimated recount costs for clarity purposes, and clarifying that an automatic recount required by the bill is paid by the county, but reimbursed by the Reserve for Statutory Contingency account as currently required by NRS 293405 for election recounts in which the recount requester prevails. The Second Amendment from Assemblymember Gonzalez proposes to align the language applying to ballot question recounts with the language applying to recounts for elected offices to ensure voters can still request a recount for ballot questions if the difference between the results of the question being approved or disapproved is 5% or less. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 287.
So moved.
We have a motion from Assemblymember Hadigi. Do we have a second?
Second.
With second from Vice Chair Gonzalez. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. I will assign the floor statement to Vice Chair Gonzalez. Next,
Chair.
you're welcome. Next bill, please.
Thank you, Chair. The final bill on work session today is Assembly Bill 348, sponsored by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means and heard in this committee on March 11th. Assembly Bill 348 requires the Interim Retirement and Benefits Committee to review the operation of and make recommendations regarding the legislator's retirement system and provides for the terms of members, appointment of alternates, and filling of vacancies for the committee. The bill also eliminates the requirements for the Fiscal Analysis Division of the Legislative Counsel Bureau to perform, in even-numbered years and to the extent of available resources, budget stress tests comparing estimated future revenues and expenditures to major funds in the state treasury under various potential economic conditions, and to report the results of such tests to the governor and legislature. Finally, AB 348 abolishes the Legislative Bureau of Educational Accountability and Program Evaluation within the Fiscal Analysis Division. There are no amendments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? I will entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 348.
So moved.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Gonzalez. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Assembly Member Hattigi. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion carries, and I will assign the floor statement to Assembly Member Monroe Moreno. You're welcome, and I think that is it. So we give a big thanks to Ms. Prohl, and good job, committee, on your first work session. I will now close the work session. Great, and with that, I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 367. This measure makes various changes related to language access in elections. We have Vice Chair Gonzalez presenting AB 367 today. As a reminder, please limit your presentation to 15 minutes, and please begin when you are ready.
Hello and good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Mosca and members of the committee. For the record, I am Cecilia Gonzalez and I proudly represent Assembly District 16 in Clark County. And today I am excited to present to you Assembly Bill 367. I also have Chanel with me from All Voting is Local with the Chair's permission, who will also be co-presenting the bill with me. Thank you. Every Nevadan has a fundamental right to participate in the electoral process. However, this right is often restricted for limited English proficient Nevadans due to language barriers that discourage them from participating in the process. To ensure fair and equitable access to voting, we must move towards providing voting materials and election information in the languages that many eligible voters read and speak. Nevada is a diverse state, the third most diverse state in the nation, according to the 2020 census, and I would argue that this diversity is our state's greatest strength. We have the fourth largest population of residents who identify as Asian American, Pacific Islander, and Native Hawaiians, and the fifth largest population who identify as Latino. Compared to the 2010 census, both communities grew significantly in just one decade. The AANHPI population grew 45.6%, and the Latino community grew 24.3%. As our state continues to diversify, the number of people speaking a language other than English at home continues to grow. Although there are existing federal requirements for providing voting materials in languages other than English, these requirements often do not go far enough. Assembly Bill 368 seeks to establish the additional state standards for providing voting materials in various languages to ensure equitable access to the ballot box. At this time, I will now turn the presentation over to Chanel from All Voting is Local. Thank you.
If your mic is not, oh, there you go.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Just want to double check that the slide is visible online and for folks in the room. I don't see it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, there you go. And if you could please state and spell your name for the record. Thank you.
Okay. Redo. Good afternoon. My name is Chanel, Chanel, Casanello, Cassanello, and I am the campaign manager at All Voting is Local Action Nevada. We're an organization that advocates for policies and legislative priorities that expand voter access to build a democracy for us all. It's a pleasure to present AB 367 before you today alongside Assembly Member Gonzalez, whom I'd like to thank for her support on this important legislation. The purpose of this bill is to ensure that all voters, eligible voters, no matter their primary language, have equal access to voting resources. By protecting and expanding essential language access resources currently implemented by the Secretary of State's office on a voluntary basis, we can set a foundation to build upon to further reduce language barriers to the ballot box. Without doing so, we risk abandoning historically marginalized communities, specifically voters whose primary language is not English. These language accessibility tools and resources are currently in place at the discretion of Secretary Aguilar's office, and this measure would codify these voting resources so they remain available and reliable for all voters to access for every election. I'll be speaking to the conceptual amendment we submitted to clarify the bill's intent. It would strike all the bill language except for these 5 components. 1, it would codify the Secretary of State's telephonic interpretation and translation services, or hotline, for voting-related questions in more than 200 languages year-round, including American Sign Language. Secretary Aguilar's office launched this hotline in 2024, which was utilized by voters seeking information on voting methods, candidates, ballot measures, and more in their primary language. This critical resource reduces the language access barrier for voters who want to participate in our democracy and who need clarification in the language that they speak. Voters can utilize this again year-round and receive real-time interpretation and translation about any questions on voting. Second, it would codify the Secretary of State's website translation to ensure voting information is available in a minimum of the 7 most common languages, including Spanish, Tagalog, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Thai, and American Sign Language. Third, it would authorize the use of certain devices such as cell phones or tablets inside a polling place to ensure that voters who are deaf or hard of hearing can access critical interpretation services at any voting site. Fourth, it would mandate all statewide communications sent by the Secretary of State to occur in both English and Spanish. And lastly, it would fund the Language Access Coordinator position in the Secretary of State's office in order to continue targeted efforts towards addressing gaps in language accessibility across our state. Moving on to the makeup of our state, I'd like to highlight findings from the 2020 U.S. Census. We are the 3rd most diverse state in the country, which is worth celebrating. About 30% of the population speaks a language other than English at home. Spanish is spoken by 21% of the state population and 12% of our rural population. Nearly 500,000 Nevadans over 18 years of age speak a language other than English, and over 125,000 Nevadans over 18 years of age speak a primary language other than English. Over 119,000 Nevadans have a hearing difficulty, and over 85,000 have a vision difficulty. We also have the 4th largest population of people who identify as Asian and Pacific Islander, and the 5th largest population of those who identify as Hispanic and Latino. Lastly, the top languages spoken aside from English are Spanish, Tagalog, and Filipino, Chinese, Mandarin, or Cantonese, Amharic, Somali, or other Afro-Asiatic languages, and German. As mentioned, we're very diverse, and we will continue to grow in that direction, and so it's critical that future secretaries of state continue to provide voting resources and election information for voters who do not primarily speak English. There is no state mandate to require voting materials unless voters meet thresholds established by the Voting Rights Act. Our population of limited English proficiency voters who do not fall within these thresholds are left out of the electoral process. Through this bill, the Nevada Legislature has an opportunity to catch these voters and ensure, regardless of the language they speak and read, they have access to accurate election information, they understand their ballot, and they can make well-informed decisions in every election moving forward. For additional background, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was enacted to make sure that all citizens, especially Black Americans in the South, could vote without facing unfair impediments such as literacy tests or poll taxes. It banned discriminatory practices and gave the federal government the power to step in if states tried to block people from voting. The 1975 reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act expanded protections to include more groups, such as non-English speakers, Native Americans, and people with disabilities. It ensures these groups have equal access to voting by requiring voting materials in different languages. Section 203 of the VRA requires that if a certain number of people in an area speak a language that is not English, The government must provide voting materials such as sample ballots and ballots in that language. This ensures people who do not speak English fluently can still understand how to vote and have an equal opportunity to participate in our elections. And then Section 208, really quickly, it ensures individuals who need help when voting can receive assistance from a person of their choice at that voting site. Diving a bit more into Section 203 of the VRA, so in order to qualify, these 4 protected groups are included. We have Native American, Asian Americans, and Pacific Islanders, Alaska Native, and Hispanic and Latino. And again, in order to qualify for this federal mandate, these groups must meet a threshold of 5% of the voting age population or 10,000 citizens, be limited English proficient of the same language, have an illiteracy rate higher than the national average. It's worth noting that the next language determination will take place in 2026 by the Department of Justice using U.S. Census data. Section 208 of the VRA allows people who have a disability or are illiterate and need help to vote are allowed to have someone of their choice assist them at a voting site. It should be noted that if there's any reason that a person needs help voting, that they can choose that person, and this is not bound to any particular region or group. This is nationwide. Oh, apologies. Nope, we're moving on. Now, how does Section 203 take place in Nevada? So only 2 out of our 17 counties are required to abide by Section 203. Clark County must provide voting materials in Spanish and Tagalog and Filipino. And Nye County must provide translation and interpretation services in Shoshone, which does not have a standard writing system, so that interpretation piece is really, really critical. And although not required, Washoe County does have 17.6% of Washoe County's population does speak Spanish, and they have voluntarily provided bilingual sample ballots and ballots in English and Spanish. So again, through these 5 components, this measure cultivates a more inclusive system for Nevadan voters who face language barriers and are not protected by Section 203 of the Voting Rights Act. It fills a gap for voters who cannot confidently utilize an English language ballot. In addition, it provides the Secretary of State's office with direction in order to plan out language accessibility programming and to include it in their budget. And to wrap up, we're really grateful to the Secretary of State's office for being committed to implementing these language resources and willing to expand their efforts. We strongly believe these resources should be protected to limit voter confusion and to cultivate a more inclusive electoral process. The ability to vote does not equate to access to vote. No voter should feel intimidated by an English-only ballot or hesitate due to the lack of a translation or interpretation option in any county in Nevada. This legislation makes a meaningful impact on all Nevadan voters. It provides direction to the Secretary of State's office. It strengthens our democracy by ensuring all eligible voters have access to the information and the resources that they need to make well-informed decisions in every election. And with that, Chair Mosca, this concludes my presentation, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentations. And we will move to questions, and you may go direct to the member. First, we have a question from Assemblymember Moore.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Vice Chair Gonzalez, for bringing this very important bill forward. I am always supportive of anything that makes language access easier for folks. I am someone that is bilingual. I didn't speak any English until I started going to elementary school, and Spanish is the language that, even though my parents have been here since they were teenagers, they still feel more comfortable speaking it. And I have noticed in my district, as soon as people realize that I speak Spanish, they quickly speak to me in Spanish. Like, they prefer to speak, a lot of folks prefer to receive their information in a language that they feel most comfortable. And I love that Nevada is the most diverse state in the country. But I do have a question about what the other two, if you're able to tell us a little bit about what the other two most diverse states in the country are already doing to expand language access when it comes to ballots.
I will have to fact check,
You do
but
have to
others.
state your name for the
I'm so
record.
sorry.
Yes.
Chanel Casanello for the record. I would have to fact check this, but there is room for improvement in Nevada. As you know, we do not have statewide Spanish language ballots, even though Spanish is the second most common language spoken in the state. In comparison to states such as New York, California, Florida, Nevada is expected to be at their level, and in particular regarding Spanish language ballots, it's very surprising to others that with our population, that we do not have statewide Spanish ballots. So this in particular it closes the gap. So folks who cannot confidently utilize an English language ballot, the hotline in particular and the resources on the Secretary of State's website, which are translated in the 7 most common languages, it's a safety net so that voters can utilize these resources. But as we're just really happy to be in partnership with the Secretary of State's office to expand those resources. And I think the hotline in particular, offering 200 minimum languages is a big leap of progress.
Thank you, Chair. My follow-up has to do with the American Sign Language as well. Are you able to tell us what other states are doing regarding that as well, expanding access to those that use the American Sign Language?
I cannot speak on that, but I can look into it and follow up.
And you do
But
have to say your name.
Chanel Casanello, I'll get it eventually. Chanel Casanello for the record. I can't speak to that in particular, but we do have a letter of support from the Nevada Commission on persons who are deaf and hard of hearing and speech impaired. And we are working with them to help them achieve their goals in terms of language accessibility, in voting in particular. But there is a shortage in all industries here in Nevada, unfortunately, when it comes to American Sign Language interpretation. I know that there's other legislation moving around this session trying to address some of those issues. I think it will really depend on progress made in other areas where we can take American Sign Language accessibility in Nevada in regards to voting. But I will follow up with more information on that.
Thank you. Next, we have Assemblymember Cole.
Hello, thank you. So my question is a technical one. I feel like I always bring technical questions, and you may not have an answer to this, but who does the translation work in the various languages? And is there a mechanism for proofreading to ensure accuracy? And I'm mostly concerned with all of the ballot initiatives and everything and all of the explanations of how this is affected and the pros and the cons. I mean, it's a lot of words, and there's a lot of nuances in various languages. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember. We have Secretary of State's office coming to the table, Mr. Mark Voloshin.
Thank you for the question, Assemblymember. Mark Voloshin, my name is spelled M-A-R-K, last name W-L-A-S-C-H-I-N. I'm the Deputy Secretary of State for Elections. Excellent question, and it's one that I know that we've grappled with because it's critical that you get it right. In talking with some of my colleagues across the country about translative services, one of the initial things they highlighted was a concern about dialects. If you interpret something and translate it using a dialect from, for example, northern Mexico, but it's your community and your state is really from southern Mexico, it simply doesn't work. So what we've decided on currently is that we use the state contract vehicles. There are some translative and interpretive services that are through state purchasing as a starting point. It's one for continuity of the language across the state. Two, we also use the Election Assistance Commission has a dictionary of kind of recommended terms, but those are starting points. And really the third and most important part is it is a dialogue. We talk to community leaders, our clerks and registrars across the state. If the feedback they get is one of, this is close but not quite meeting the mark, then we eagerly adjust to make sure that it meets the needs of the electorate.
So for these 7 languages, do you have any concern that you wouldn't be able to do everything you just described with any of them, or you're good with all of them?
Thank you for the question, Assembly Member. Mark Vloshton for the record. No, that absolutely. That there are mechanisms in place to ensure that the languages identified by the bill or even others that have come up as being close to the top 7, but perhaps not there just yet, would be translatable for sure.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we will go to testimony. So for today, because of time constraints, we will be limiting testimony to 30 minutes for all. So 30 minutes in support, 30 minutes in opposition, and 30 minutes in neutral. Please don't forget to state and spell your name for the record, which helps our committee secretaries. And please make sure your comments are on the bill and not the sponsor of the bill. So if those of us in Carson City can start filling in the tables, you will have 2 minutes. And you may start when you're ready. And because of the time constraints, don't be shy to just ditto as well. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca and Assembly members. My name is Chloe Lim, for the record spelled Chloelim. I am here today to testify in support of the bill AB 367. I am a senior at Coronado High School, and I am a first-generation American with Korean immigrant parents. I am also a dual citizen, and while my parents are green card holders, they are not yet U.S. citizens and cannot vote. However, despite the challenges they've faced adapting to a new country, my parents care deeply about the future, not just their own, but mine and my peers' futures as well. My mother, who is not fully proficient in English, often relies on me to translate important documents and information for her, including materials related to elections. I can't help but imagine how much easier it would be for families like mine if translated voting materials were more readily accessible. This bill, AB 367, would make that a reality, ensuring that voters like my mom could more easily understand and participate in the process, which is something I hope to one day provide for her. Having access to translated voting materials, the ability to select a preferred language when registering, and access to interpretation services would help make sure that people aren't excluded from this critical process simply because of language barriers. I know firsthand how important it is for my mother to feel confident about what's on the ballot and the impact her choices have. Though she can't vote today, I want to help create a world where people like my parents, who are invested in the community and care about our future, can participate. I urge you to support AB 367, not only because it would make a difference in my life, but because it would ensure that families like mine aren't left out of a process that affects us all. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca and Assembly members. For the record, my name is Amanda Malous, AMANDA-MALLOUS. I am a high school senior at Ed W. Clark High School in Las Vegas, and I have never met prouder American citizens than my newly immigrated Iraqi family, which is why today I am here in strong support of AB 367. As the daughter of Middle Eastern refugees, I grew up watching my parents navigate the world in a language that was not their own. I remember the challenges they faced, whether it was reading legal documents, filling out forms, or understanding critical information. Voting, the foundation of our democracy, should not be one of those challenges. Currently, Nevada provides limited ballots in Spanish and Tagalog. But for communities like mine, who speak Arabic, Farsi, and many other languages, there is no guaranteed access. This leaves thousands of voters struggling to understand the very process that determines their representation. Nevada is home to diverse communities, and yet many voters, especially first-generation immigrants like my family, and first-generation Americans like myself, struggle to fully engage in the democratic process due to language barriers. By expanding language accessibility on our ballots, AB 367 ensures that all citizens, regardless of their linguistic background, can make informed decisions that shape their futures and represent the citizenship that they newly and proudly wear across their heart. Language should never be a barrier in participation to democracy. This is why I urge you to support this bill and take a step toward a more inclusive Nevada. Thank you.
Hello, Chair Mosca and members of the committee. My name is Ty Tan, spelled Tytan, and I'm a sophomore at Coral Academy of Science, Las Vegas, representing 1APIA Nevada. I'm here to testify in support of AB 367 to ensure that language access is a guarantee in our elections. Now, during the Cambodian genocide, my great-grandparents and their children moved here, escaping from a refugee camp with the help of church officials to come to Nevada. For years, they worked tirelessly in the casinos, cleaning, serving, and slowly moving up the work ladder, all to bring all of our family here to Nevada. Yet, even at their deathbed, even when they had become American citizens, my great-grandparents never got the ability to vote, because at a time when Nevada had a lack of language accessibility, they weren't given the opportunity to even read or fill out their ballot. For families like mine and other families coming to Nevada today seeking a new life, AB 367 is the change we need to ensure that no one is barred from our democracy. As the functions of AB 367 have already been discussed at length, I urge of you to vote yes to AB 367 like you did AB 246 in the past, in order to ensure that our democracy continues to be protected by the people who deserve to be a part of it. Thank you for consideration.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca and members of the committee. My name is Kayla Maese, spelled Kaylah. Last name is Maese. I'm a civil rights analyst at the ACLU of Nevada, and I will just ditto what these wonderful students have said today. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Oh my God, my voice, I'm sorry. Good afternoon, Chair Mosca and committee members. My name is Brenda Zamora. That's BRENDA ZAMORA. I'm the Deputy Director with Make It Work Nevada. We believe that language access is integral to ensuring that all voters can make informed decisions that impact their lives, their communities, and their future. We urge you all to please support AB 367 and support an inclusive, just, and democratic Nevada for all. Thank you for your time.
My name is Julian Salvador, JulianSalvador. I am a proud member of Youth Power Project with Make the Road Nevada, and I'm a junior at Spring Valley High School in Las Vegas. As a Latino Nevadan, I've seen how language barriers can discourage civic participation. My parents primarily speak Spanish, and I remember sitting with them during the 2024 election, trying to translate complex ballot language. Even though they wanted to vote, they almost gave up because they didn't understand the process. This left them feeling excluded from a system that's supposed to represent everybody. This issue isn't unique to my family. I've seen neighbors struggle with the same problem at polling places. In fact, nearly 30% of Nevadan households speak a non-English language at home. Without bilingual support, many voters are left confused and discouraged. Voter registration forms don't even ask about language preference, which means important materials like ballots and voter guides arrive in English by default, even for people who aren't fluent. AB 367, also known as the Language Access for All, would change this by requiring a language access coordinator, bilingual poll workers, and ballots in preferred languages. It would give families like mine the confidence to vote independently and make informed decisions without relying on someone else to translate. Passing this bill would make our elections more accessible and ensure that every Nevadan, regardless of language, feels like their voice matters. Lawmakers have the power to fix this. Language should never be a barrier to democracy. Please pass AB 367 and ensure that every single Nevadan can participate in our elections with dignity and with confidence. I'm counting on your support. Nevadans across the state are counting on your support. Thank you.
Hello,
My name is Abigail Nagate, and I am a Youth Power Project member
And Miss
at Make the
Abigail,
Road, Nevada.
could you spell your name for the record?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Abigail space Negate. I am a Youth Power Project member at Make the Road, Nevada, and a senior at Spring Valley High School. And I am here to support AB 367 because no child should have to act as a translator for their family just for them to vote or to access an education. For many first-generation Americans, translating documents for their parents or guardians isn't just an occasional task, it's a daily responsibility. I grew up having to translate school documents, report cards, and even medical forms and legal documents for my family. But I didn't always know the right words, and that meant that they never fully understood what was happening, a crucial part of voting. If these documents had been available in Amharic, the language that my family speaks, it would have made a huge difference for their understanding. I know that I'm not the only child put in this position, and even now, many children across Nevada are still forced to take on the role of translators because their families don't have access to information in their native language. That's a responsibility that children should not have to carry. Parents and guardians should be able to communicate with American institutions without needing a child to interpret for them. A child, I'm going to repeat once again, should not be given that responsibility. AB 367 will change that. It will ensure that language is not a barrier to civics education and voting. It will help first-generation families understand documents firsthand and allow students to focus on an understanding instead of translation for their families. I urge you guys to pass this bill because civics education and access to voting should not depend on whether a family is fluent in English. Every person deserves an equal opportunity to succeed and to vote, and AB 367 will make that possible. Can I count on your support? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca, committee members, and Baby Itzara. For the record, my name is Emily Prasad Zamora, and that's spelled PERSAUD-ZAMORA. I'm the Executive Director of Silver State Voices, here in strong support of AB 367. At Silver State Voices, we work on democracy issues year-round, from get out the vote to election protection. Every election without fail, we receive questions and concerns regarding language access. This is unsurprising, given that the 2020 census ranked Nevada as the third most diverse state in the country. Our organization has been asked to find interpreters for Chinese voters at polling locations, and we've actually helped translate election materials for city and municipalities before for their elections. Despite this diversity, language barriers continue to prevent voters from fully participating in elections. The Secretary of State's office has been doing an amazing job. They've been working really hard in the last 2 years to ensure that they're providing more language resources and disability accommodations for elections, and we are confident that AB 367 will expand that and codify that into law. But I want to be clear, this bill isn't just about expanding translation and interpretation services. It represents the intersection of language justice, disability rights, and voting rights all together. Nevada voters have the right to contribute to the decisions that shape our state, no matter what their preferred language is. If we want to be a truly representative democracy, we need to ensure that Nevada's voters can fully participate in our elections. We can make that a reality by supporting AB 367, and we urge the committee to do the same. Thank you so much.
My name is Yaneli Jimenez Rodriguez. That's Yaneli space JIMENEZ space RODRIGUES. And I support AB 367 language access. This issue has personally impacted me because I often have to cancel plans and rearrange my life to help my parents with important meetings. I'm the one who has to translate documents and write for them since they don't have papers in their language. It's not just inconvenience, but it's a responsibility I carry to ensure my parents can understand everything they need to know, even when I hardly even understand it myself. The lack of language access has led to several struggles in my daily life. I have to make sacrifices in order to help my parents, missing out on personal commitments because they can't navigate through the important task without assistance. I believe AB 367 would make a huge difference by ensuring that people in situations like mine don't have to bear this burden alone. It would create better language access for everyone and help eliminate the barriers that prevent non-English speakers from fully understanding the important information. To lawmakers, I urge you to pass this bill because it's essential to ensure that people, regardless of their language, can fully participate in society. This is not just a policy, it's about fairness and dignity for people who are too often left behind. At the end of the day, this bill matters because everyone deserves equal access to information, no matter what language they speak, to understand what they signed and learn. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And we're about halfway through the support testimony, so we will go to Las Vegas after the two at the table.
Isaac Tenorio, IZACK-TENORIO, with Strategy 60, today representing Camping Legal Center, Chair Mosca, Vice Chair Gonzalez, and members of the committee. Camping Legal Center supports AB 367 to help ensure that all voters, no matter what language they speak, can participate fully in the electoral process. America is made better by the democratic participation of all citizens, not just those who speak fluent English. Limited English proficiency should not mean limited political participation, and a lack of meaningful language assistance should not be a barrier to citizens making their voices heard in our electoral process. While our organization is grateful for all the efforts made by the Secretary of State on this front, it is important that these programs are codified into state law to ensure that our communities will have the access for them for decades to come, and we urge you to support this important piece of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Gabriel
Sorry,
DeCaro.
sorry, Mr. DeCaro. We have one more up
Sorry.
here, then we're coming to you.
Sorry. Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Pio Rejas, Pio space REJAS, and I'm a political science student at UNLV, a former student body president at CSN, and a strong advocate for equitable access to civic participation. I'm here today in strong support of AB 367 because language should never be a barrier to democracy. Nevada is home to a diverse electorate with many voters who primarily speak languages other than English. AB 367 takes a necessary and long overdue step in ensuring that every eligible voter, regardless of language proficiency, has the tools they need to fully participate in our elections. Whether you think these changes are a waste of taxpayer funds or not, these measures are not about convenience. They are about equity and inclusion. I have seen firsthand how language barriers prevent eligible voters from fully understanding their ballots or being able to vote at all. I plead to this committee to also consider clear accountability measures to ensure that these provisions are effectively implemented and that bilingual election officers are properly recruited to serve our communities. I ask this committee, as a Nevadan, to support this bill and uphold every resident in Nevada's right to participate in our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Now down to you in Las Vegas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and apologies. For the record, I'm Gabriel DeCaro, Gabriel, DI space CHIARE. I serve as Chief Deputy Secretary of State. I'm here testifying in support on behalf of Secretary of State Francisco Aguilar. Secretary Aguilar has a strong support for this bill. Language access is a priority for him all through the office. The office is presently working on other bills that would expand language access through our other divisions as well. But obviously, elections is an incredibly important component of why language access is important. So thank you very much to the sponsors, and the Secretary urges your support.
You can just keep going. Go ahead, Las Vegas. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca and members of the committee. My name is Rachel Leddy, RACHELLEDDY, and I'm a rural outreach organizer for Make the Road Nevada. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in strong support of AB 367. Nevada's rural communities are home to hardworking voters who deserve the same access to election information as those in urban areas. Yet many rural voters face additional barriers due to language access gaps. In Elko County, Spanish-speaking residents have shared concerns about receiving election notices only in English, making it harder to meet deadlines or understand ballot measures. In Nye County, voters from a growing Thai-speaking community struggle to find official translations, often relying on secondhand interpretations that may be inaccurate. In Churchill County, Basque-speaking elders who have lived in Nevada for generations have difficulty understanding complex ballot language with little to no assistance available near them. Unlike urban areas where election offices offer in-person resources, rural voters often have to travel long distances to seek help, making language accessibility even more critical. AB 367 addresses these challenges by making telephonic interpretation services a permanent resource, ensuring election websites are available in multiple languages, and allowing voters to use personal devices for interpretation at polling places. Every Nevadan, whether they live in Las Vegas or Lovelock, should have the same opportunity to participate in elections without unnecessary barriers. AB 367 is a necessary step toward an inclusive democracy where all eligible voters can confidently cast their ballots. I urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
Hello, Madam Chairperson and committee. Shelley Freed, Representative Las Vegas, Deaf Senior Citizens. I recently moved here from California, and I have a large number of deaf individuals who live in this area who may have been born in community, but their first language is not English. Their first language is American Sign Language. And I found out that there are very few resources for those who don't understand election processes and the rules and the questions without translation. For the last Las Vegas election, we worked very hard and tried to support AB 367. For the platform, where deaf individuals can find in American Sign Language translation, the comprehension of the questions in the bill and the options up for voting and equity, have that equity as others have, to be part of the democracy process in voting. I hope you have listened and will pass AB 367. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us here today. Anyone else in Las Vegas? Okay, go ahead. We have about 10 more minutes in support.
Hello, my name is Sean Mulholland. I'm the president of Las Vegas Deaf Senior Citizens. About our support of AB 367, talking about going back to November 5th, 2024 election day. So, shall Section 1 of Article 13 of the Nevada Constitution be amended to 1, revise the description of the persons who benefit from institutions that the state is required to foster and support? 2, replace the term institutions with entities. And 3, add entities for the benefit of persons with intellectual or developmental disabilities to the types of entities that the state is required to foster and support. That language was not accessible for many deaf Americans. Talking about deaf and dumb, changing that to deaf and hard of hearing, that hurts my feelings. And the language in the electorate is not accessible. We need to add maybe another, maybe an iPad that it could be translated into sign language and change the language from deaf and dumb to deaf and hard of hearing. Next, for no one left behind in the Constitution. So people have a right to understand what language says. And the American Sign Language is the language that the deaf Americans use. So in the last 2 weeks, Secretary of State and another woman at the Secretary was explaining this, but they don't understand the struggle. So how can we improve the language that is quite elevated because we want it to be clear through American Sign Language for all? Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we will move on AVH to the phone line. Thank you. We have a couple more minutes left. We'll move to the phone line, and if you're here to call in support today, it is on the agenda, but I'll say it one more time, is 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 841-9166-9502.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 367, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Paula Luna, Paula-Luna. I'm the Deputy Director of Battleborn Progress, and I'm calling in support of AB 367. I want to ditto what has already been said in support and thank Member Gonzalez for bringing this bill and urge the committee to pass. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you. AVHS caller.
Hello, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tristan St. Dennis, that's TRYSTINFC_DENIS, and I'm the Policy Associate with the Nevada Conservation League. We would just like to ditto the previous testimony and thank you for hearing this bill.
Thank you. Next caller.
Hi, this is Bethany Kahn on behalf of the Culinary Union, Nevada's largest immigrant organization, and we're in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. AVH next caller. Caller, if you're
Hello,
speaking.
my name is Hugh Lee, Hieule. I'm here on my personal capacity, personal time, just to ditto everything else that's been said. And just like all the students who became their family personal and professional translator, the least we can do is get paid an iPhone. Right, thank you.
Thank you. Next caller. Caller, if you're speaking, we do not hear you.
Caller, please press star 6 to unmute on your end.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca and members of the committee. My name is William Moore, spelled WILLIAMMOORE. I'm the Nevada Civic Engagement Director with Mi Familia en Acción, testifying in support of AB 367. Mi Familia en Acción is a civic engagement organization and a proud member of the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. We support AB 367 because it's the logical next step to codify language access for all Nevadans. We were in our community again during this last election and spoke to people who time and time again need these services. Our hard of hearing community in Nevada is over 100,000 strong, and here in Clark County alone, folks speak over 40 different languages, and they deserve interpretation services. Additionally, it's important to ensure all communications from the Secretary of State would also be issued in Spanish. When we institutionalize and fund language access, more Nevadans are informed when they show up to the polls. Our electorate in Nevada is diverse. Policies like AB 367 allow more people to live in and love the Nevada we all know. Mi Familia en Acción, we believe that our community, regardless of ability or language barriers, deserve to be heard too. Thank you to the committee for sponsoring this bill. We recommend the committee support AB 367. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Wilcox, Wilcox. Thank you, Chair Mosca and members of the committee. I am the parent of a deaf child, and I am chair of the Nevada Commission for Persons who are Deaf and Hard of Hearing. This issue of voter accessibility is of paramount importance to the community that we on the commission represent. The first and primary language for many in our community is American Sign Language, a visual language that is completely distinct from either written or spoken English. Limited English proficiency for some of these individuals continues to be a serious impediment to fully participating in elections in Nevada, as we have documented in our regular town hall meetings with the community, and you've heard from a few members of our community today. For these reasons, the Deaf Commission is in support of the bill, and we thank the legislature for addressing this critical issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next caller.
If you recently joined the call and would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 367, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no additional callers for support at this time.
Okay, great. We only had 1 minute left, so that is perfect. Thank you so much. We will now move on to testimony in opposition of AB 367. Remember to please keep your comments to the bill and not the sponsor or anyone else, just the bill. We will limit as well to 30 minutes. You have 2 minutes, and please state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Madam Chair and Committee, my name is Lynn Chapman, LYNNCHAPMAN, and I'm the State Treasurer for the Independent American Party. According to the 22nd edition of the Ethnologue, there are currently 7,111 living languages in the world today. Chinese has 13 variations and Arabic has 20. English is the #1 language used in the world today. According to World Data Info, only 1,000 years ago there were about 9,000 languages. Due to increasing globalization, the number is decreasing. It is assumed that by the beginning of the 23rd century, there should be only 100 different languages. According to the World Data Info, the top languages spoken in countries: French is spoken in 46 countries, Spanish in 34 countries, Chinese 25 countries, Russian 22 countries, but English is spoken in 58 countries. My father worked in the polling places in California for many years. He told me year after year that they had many boxes full of ballots with different languages in each box. He said they would use a couple out of all those boxes, just a couple of them, and at the end of the election, the full boxes were thrown away. If a person is a naturalized citizen, they are required to demonstrate proficiency in English, which includes reading, writing, and speaking. So I don't think it's wise that taxpayers be responsible to pay the extra cost for printing election materials in numerous languages. We are in favor of the use of cell phones, tablets, and other devices inside the polling places to ensure that the deaf and hard of hearing community has access. That's important. So we are in favor of that part of it. And I do like the new legislator over here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else in Carson City? Okay, great. With that, we will move to opposition in Las Vegas. I can't see Las Vegas right now. Okay, seeing none. Making sure giving people time. Seeing no one come to the table, we will then move to the phone line. So I'll say it one more time. So if you are in opposition of Assembly Bill 367 and you want to call on the phone, it's 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 841-9166-9502.
To testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 367, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon. My name is Iris Stone, IRISSTONE. I oppose AB 367. It will have a very large fiscal cost with a significant workload on the elections department with relatively minor impact. This bill will require the establishment of another committee consisting of multiple people. And since there are at least 7 languages under consideration, there will need to be resources for each of these languages. I personally immigrated many years ago to America, and I was anxious to learn English so that I could assimilate into society, get a job, make new friends, and study English. While I still speak my native language with family, I am an American citizen now and proud that I can speak English as good as my native tongue. During some electioneering efforts in 2024, I actually spoke to Latino immigrants who shared my perspective, and they objected to receiving brochures in Spanish. They found it unnecessary and even condescending. I think Nevada would do better assigning a budget to offer English classes to anyone with limited English proficiency. That would align well with President Trump's March 1 executive order. It states that a common language fosters national cohesion, helps newcomers engage in communities and tradition, and enriches our shared culture. It further states that establishing English as the official language promotes unity, establishes efficiency in government operations, and creates a pathway for civic engagement. The executive order celebrates multilingual Americans who have learned English and passed it down while empowering immigrants to achieve the American dream through a common language. I urge you to vote against AB 367. It's going to be very expensive and unnecessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next caller.
Good afternoon, Oscar Williams, Oscar Williams, from Reno, Nevada. It's a bit unfortunate. I see this really as 2 bills in one. You've got the needs of the hearing impaired, and that's important, and that certainly needs to be dealt with, but it has unique needs compared to those who speak a foreign language and have limited English proficiency, or even those who are illiterate, because of course our schools are failing. They're really 2 different issues, but they're merged together here. I'm going to try to tackle the foreign language thing for the most part in my testimony here. By the way, this is a regurgitation of failed legislation in 2023, AB 246. It got vetoed for all the reasons this one's going to get vetoed, and I'll get into it. And actually, there's an added bonus here, which I might as well jump into. Our president, Donald J. Trump, on March 1, signed an executive order making English the official language of the United States. This bill is completely irrespective of that, and irrespective of the requirements of naturalization, as a prior speaker just mentioned. We need to teach people English, and we have a lot of resources to do that, including in Washington County schools. There is an adult language services program for people, just like many of the people in support of this bill testified. They had family members that struggle with English, and yet there are services out there. They're not getting those services. Be aware they're available to your folks, and you should take advantage of that. The presentation made was that, and I agree that the 2 biggest demographics of limited English proficiency in the state are Spanish and Tagalog, but we already provide voter election materials in those languages. So I'm not quite sure how we're adding that. This is really more about allowing cell phone use inside a polling location, which I think is a security issue, although I appreciate that there are laws that allow you have electronic devices to access your sample ballot. So this is kind of a progression of that.
And thank you, Mr. Williams, for calling in. We're at 2 minutes, so you can always give your testimony to the committee. Thank you. AVH next caller.
Thank you, Chair. We have no additional callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. With that, we will now move to anyone wishing to testify neutral to Assembly Bill 367 here in Carson City. Seeing no one approaching, we'll move to Las Vegas if you're here to testify in neutral of Assembly Bill 367. And seeing no one approaching the table in Las Vegas, we'll move to the phone lines for anyone who would like to testify in neutral of Assembly Bill 367.
To testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 367, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers for neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you. With that, I would like to invite Vice Chair Gonzalez up for closing remarks. Or your co-presenter, yes.
Chanel Casanello for the record. I just want to say thank you for listening to this very different bill from AB 246 for clarification from the 2023 session, and also for the questions Assemblymember Moore and Assemblymember Cole. I've done some research and it's too complicated and would take too long to go into depth here, because in some cases, rather than state by state, it's county by counties implementing much more robust language access resources and lowering thresholds to meet their community's needs. But I will follow up with that information. Otherwise, thank you again.
Great, thank you. And with that, I will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 367. And with that, we're going to take a 1-minute recess.
Thank you so much. We are back from recess. Oh dear. Apologies, I lost where I was on this sheet. This one right here. Awesome. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 254. This measure revises provisions relating to the legislature. We have our very own Chair Mosca presenting AB 254 today. As a reminder, please limit your presentation to 15 minutes. I also want to note that if you are in the overflow room, we do have room, so please feel to come in and fill in the seats in here. And I do want to note that due to time constraints today, we will be limiting testimony to 30 minutes total for each side. So 30 minutes for support, 30 minutes for opposition testimony, and 30 minutes for neutral. And with that, begin when you're ready. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gonzalez. I just want to make sure that the PowerPoint is up. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Erica Mosca, for the record, I have a co-presenter in Las Vegas. So I'll have my co-presenter briefly introduce himself.
Miles Dixon, MILES-DICKSON, CEO and founder of Nevada Grant Lab.
Well, thank you so much, Legislative Operations and Elections. This is my first time ever presenting to this committee, so I'm excited to be here today. I will first go over the why behind AB 254. What is the purpose and where did it come from? We will start by talking about some important facts about the nonprofit sector, and then I'm going to share my experience as a nonprofit founder and former executive director, as well as the work with the Nevada Nonprofit Caucus. After that, I will go over the bill and the amendment review. The bill is basically the amendment is basically a bill rewrite, so I will be going over that, and of course, happy to answer any and all of your questions. So we'll start that this session I have had 10 pieces of policy that all go under my 3 pillars of good governance, higher education, workforce attainment, or community support. And so this is my bill that is my last bill under good governance today. And I really don't see it as a problem. I always like to frame all of my legislation under a problem or a solution and a solution. I don't see this as a problem. I see it more as an opportunity where we can help more Nevadans through Nevada nonprofits, as well as continue the work that so many have done before us. And so we are proposing creating a competitive grant program within the state of Nevada. And with that, I will kick it over to my co-presenter.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Miles Dixon. I want to begin by talking a little bit about the importance of the nonprofit sector here. You know, in partnership with state government in every corner of our state, every day, nonprofits are delivering a wide range of services that benefit Nevadans, enrich our communities, and contribute to our economy. Despite their tremendous importance, however, Nevada's nonprofit sector is significantly underfunded, understaffed, and undersized. For example, nonprofits in the Las Vegas region have annual expenditures of just $783 per capita per year, compared to an average expenditure of about $4,000 in comparable regions. Likewise, many nonprofits have low rates of net assets and cash on hand, with most unable to cover more than 3 months of expenses. Even though it is a small but mighty nonprofit sector, it is a major and significant contributor to our economy. In fact, our sector employs more than 46,000 people. We spend more than $3 billion annually in the state of Nevada on payroll, buying goods and services, paying rent and mortgages, owning office spaces, operating service sites, and the alike. And really importantly, we also contribute to the attraction of more investment to our state, whether that's through federal grant resources or national philanthropy. You know, the state of Nevada, as you all know so well, regularly provides critical funding to the sector via appropriations, grants, and contracts. Those dollars are critical to funding the services that our organizations provide every single day. Most state grants and contracts are awarded and administered by state agencies. These grants are funded by a combination of federal dollars as well as state dollars, and sometimes a combination of both. Additionally, from time to time, when funding is available, the governor and/or the legislature are able to, and together I should say, are able to award appropriations to support worthy projects for qualified nonprofits. These appropriations are remarkably important and impactful for nonprofits and, more importantly, the communities they serve. And while I know that you would probably like me to sit and spend quite a bit of time talking about all the good work of the nonprofit sector, what I'd rather do is refer the committee or any members who aren't part of IFC to listen or to review to the incredibly compelling testimony and reporting provided during the January 29th IFC meeting from the more than 60 nonprofits throughout the state who received appropriations from the 82nd legislature, as they described how they spent those dollars to benefit Nevada communities and families, creating jobs, increasing access to everything from wraparound supports that help students to increasing access to primary care, mental health care, or for that matter, access to the arts and affordable housing, and truly everything in between. These appropriations really are so critical to how nonprofits operate. And finally, I want to end before turning it back over to the assembly person by saying that so many nonprofits are prepared and capable of administering government grants. In fact, more than 500 Nevada nonprofits received more than $1.25 billion in government grants from local, state, and federal sources in 2021 alone. This sector is capable of doing the important work that Nevadans and taxpayers rely on it to do. And in fact, it does that work every single day. And the opportunity to put into place a process that builds on the great work that's already been done with appropriations and complements state governments and government contracts and grants is something that we're really excited about here at Nevada Grant Lab. And we appreciate the bill sponsor as well as the many other members of the legislature and the nonprofit community who have provided input on this.
Thank you so much. And so for me, it's really about what do nonprofits actually do to help people. It's not about trying to fund folks or help them with their operating. It's really how can we make sure we're making sure Nevadans are fed, making sure Nevadans are able to go to school and have everything that they need to succeed. And so the first picture here is of some students a very long time ago who are now, one is a physician assistant in our state, one is a communications director in our state. The other one is a small business owner in our state. She owns her own coffee shop. And so my experience as a nonprofit founder and former executive director was really just helping the community and making sure that they could reach their dreams and not have barriers in their way. And so through this legislature, I've been really excited to chair the Nonprofit Legislative Caucus, which for the past interim have been doing a lot of bipartisan, bicameral work to really just help members understand more about nonprofits, as well as help nonprofits understand more about the legislative process, whether it's how to invite your legislator to an event to how to testify on a bill. And so we've had many representatives. We've had 4 different counties come to an event. We had over 120 nonprofits at the one in Southern Nevada and over 30 at the one in Carson City that we just did. And these are some pictures here as well. And so this bill really just comes from direct feedback from the caucus. We wanted to make sure that we were bringing something that they were saying they would like to see. And for me, it's really building on the work that so many of you on this committee have already done and continue to do previous to my serving. So with that, I will go over the bill, which again is really in the amendment. And so the goal was to really just try to start something, create a competitive merit-based grant process in the state of Nevada and getting some good feedback. We saw that the good place where this could be, and you see it in section 2 sub 2, would actually be the Office of Federal Assistance, could potentially house this program. In section 2.3, we have that the interim finance committee may adopt the regulations that the OFA comes up with so that IFC and the legislative body can still give feedback and make sure that our thoughts are heard. And then when you go to section 3, we see the Office of Federal Assistance as the source of funds, because we know here in the state of Nevada, with the way our revenue is set up, we don't have a lot of general funds that we can just give to nonprofits. So we want to make sure that we can have a different way that we can help our nonprofits in our state, make sure that they can continue the good work for constituents, and that we can continue to work together to help our state. And with that, we'll love to open it up to questions.
Thank you so much. Members, do we have any questions? Go for it.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I don't have a question. The gremlins are still in our mics. I pushed the button, I swear.
She did herself.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I have worked on our grant management in the state every session, and I just want to thank you for picking up the torch and continuing on with this work, because we know that we are limited in the work that we can do at the state level. It's truly our nonprofits who are on the ground day in, day out that are having a positive, long-lasting, meaningful impact with our constituents. So thank you for coming up with a creative way to assist them in doing that.
Thank you. Assemblymember Cole.
Hello, thank you. So I'm looking at the amendment, and I'm just looking at section 2, sub 1, where the change was made from private nonprofits to public nonprofits. And I guess my question is, A, why was that done? And B, what's the difference?
Erica Mosca for the record. Thank you, Assemblymember Cole. I'm gonna pitch that question to Miles down south.
Sure, Miles Dixon. I think the best answer, Assembly Member, is that NRS in different places define nonprofits in different ways. I think one of the things that we're trying to make clear here is a public nonprofit is one that services the public, as opposed to have perhaps a private nonprofit like a foundation, for example, that is funded by individuals or corporations. And so the focus here really is on the nonprofits that are in direct services that qualify as a public nonprofit under, for example, IRS 501c3 sections.
Thank you. Next, we have Assemblymember Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair. Hi. Can you just put on the record where the Office of Federal Assistance is located within the governmental organization so that it's clear for anybody watching, listening, thinking about this, reading about it on social media, so that people understand where this is going to be housed?
Erica Mosca for the record. Thank you, Assemblymember. That's a great question. The Office of Federal Assistance is in the governor's office, so it is located in the executive branch.
Thank you so much. And I have a question. I was wondering if you could speak to maybe how other states do this, and or maybe where you got the idea for this very creative way to help our nonprofits.
Yes, thank you, Erica Mosca, for the record. I definitely can't take credit. It really is the people, especially our chairwoman that is here today, that's done so much work actually on grants, as well as those who are behind me and down south. So I'm not going to take credit. I would just say that in the listening sessions with the multiple convenings that we had with nonprofits, it was one of the top things that they bubbled up, is just they would love a way to apply if there was funding. And so it came up with that. And then for other states, I'll let Miles answer. Thank you.
Miles Dixon, the majority of grant funding, government grant funding, is going to be controlled by contracts and grants administered by state agencies directly. As you all are familiar, in most states, those are going to be approved by the legislature and then administered on the executive branch side. States have different treatments for how they do appropriations, if you will. So those dollars that fall outside of a funded contract or grant, there really are many different approaches here. Several states include, and as well as the federal government, allow for an appropriations process. And that's really based in the idea that legislators, yourselves, are often the folks who know the most about the communities you represent. And so outside of the traditional, or in addition to the traditional grants and contracts process, it allows policymakers, representatives of the people, to really help direct resources to the organizations and the needs that are most critical and most compelling in the districts you represent. So appropriations are a pretty common part of many government entities.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Members, any last questions? Assemblymember Dickman.
Thank you, Chair. So how would the nonprofits apply to get the grants? Just an application process we have to set up, or?
Erica Mosca for the record. Great question. So it is under Section 2, Sub 3, that it would be the Office of Federal Assistance that would, it says 3A, 3B, 3C. They are the ones that would come up with the ways, like the rubric, because we would want to make sure that it's merit-based. It's not just, you can just apply, right? You have to do an application, you have to get approved based on a rubric, and it would actually be brought to IFC so that we could also make sure that the people who manage the money also agree with the regulations that were set up.
Okay, thanks. And then the money that comes in could be federal, could be state, could be donations, right?
Yes, and please, correct me if I'm wrong, Miles, but on Section 3 down here, we did put that the Office of Federal Assistance could go and raise money or get money for this, because we're trying really hard to not touch state funding, because we know that it is, it's a small pot. So we more want them to go out and find money through the federal or other ways, and it would actually just live there, if that makes sense. Miles, do you want to add anything?
Sure. I'd add that the vast majority of federal dollars that the state receives come with really clear use restrictions, and those are going to be administered by your agencies. So to the extent that this program has funding in the future, it's most likely to come through, whether, as the Assembly member pointed out, contributions to the program, or on occasion when the state does have the resources, it can invest in direct grant making to nonprofits, probably there. And again, I think that the point here is recognizing or trying to put into place a process that allows that when the state has those resources, there is a process to allow applications to come forward, be reviewed on a merit-based system, and ultimately have award decisions made.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much, and thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Assembly Member Moore.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I do have a question in regards to how will this office ensure that smaller nonprofits are aware that this program exists and that they're able to apply? I know the bigger nonprofits wouldn't necessarily have an issue.
Erica Mosser for the record. I really appreciate that question, Assembly Member Moore. You'll see I saw this like way too close to the meeting, but if you go to the last page and under Section 3B, it says including, and then there's nothing including. It's supposed to say including rubrics for both newer we had language, it was either newer nonprofits or less established nonprofits, because we know that they should have different criteria, if that makes sense. As someone who started my nonprofit from my own savings and had to have another job for 5 years before I could be paid and have a staff, I very much understand the importance of having different criteria versus a very large nonprofit that maybe has, a millions in budget. And so that actually is supposed to be included in there. It will be included in there. And Miles helped with the language, so I'll actually have Miles say that better than me.
Sure. Miles Dixon, Chair Mosca, throughout the interim, made a priority in our conversations around making sure that the process was equitable and inclusive. And so one of the things that we've talked about, which is a standard and you can find in different federal agencies as well as in private philanthropy, is essentially a rubric that recognizes certain organizations that have larger infrastructure could be scored differently than maybe an organization that is smaller. And so it is a combination of both proactive outreach and promotion. And I can tell you so many nonprofits over the last few years and in my day job reach out more and more than they ever have before looking for resources. So I think there's a lot of interest among all sorts of nonprofits. So I think if the state is able to kind of put together the application and make the merit review process clear, I think you'll find a really broad interest and participation in the program. Again, when funding is available, recognizing that may not be the case every biennium.
Thank you so much. And with that, I will now open testimony in support of AB 254. As a reminder, we will be doing 30 minutes in support, 30 minutes in opposition, and 30 minutes in neutral. Each person has 2 minutes to provide testimony. Please keep your comments to the bill and not about the sponsor. Members of the public may provide testimony in person or over the phone. by calling 888-475-4499 and enter the meeting ID 841-9166-9502. And with that, we will start here in Carson City. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. I'm here on behalf of United Way of Northern Nevada and the Sierra, as well as the Children's Cabinet. I also want to very much thank the sponsor of this particular piece of legislation, the chair of this committee, for thinking not just outside the box, but also kind of inside the box by amending the bill to use an existing office to do this service. It's an office that's trusted. The staff there is trusted. Nonprofits know them. And whatever rubric, whatever application they put forward, I think is one that can be recognized that will be fair for all nonprofits across the board that are looking to use these resources to move things forward. As a very active board member of a number of nonprofits that are always seeking additional resources, this will be one more place where we can go to hopefully garner the resources that we need to accomplish our missions. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Gonzalez and Assembly members of the committee. My name is Cindy Rivera, for the record, Cindi, last name Rivera. As a board member for a nonprofit organization, I am in favor of Assembly Bill 254. Nonprofits are passionate about our missions, and the teams that lead them are 110% committed to the missions. However, lack of access and actual acquisition funding is one of the things that keep us up at night. Setting up a competitive, merit-based, streamlined grant process will provide nonprofit organizations the ability to apply for grants and to be able to gain that funding that is much needed. It will provide us with the opportunity to be able to have this money provided to us that would otherwise we would not be able to apply for or have the ability and access to it. The process AB 254 proposes will give nonprofit members the ability to regain at least a little bit more of sleep at night, which is well deserved. But more important than sleep, AB 254 will give nonprofits the ability to continue our community-based missions once we have, of course, successfully completed the process and have been awarded the grants. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much. Next.
Marco Rauda, Marcorauda, representing Green Our Planet and Jobs for American Graduates. We are in support of this bill. Wanted to thank not just the sponsor, but also the committee for hearing this bill. Also wanted to thank the youngest chair for being here as well. So just want to ditto what everybody else said. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next.
Good evening, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Henry Rosas, representing United Way of Southern Nevada. Just really want to very quickly start with just thanking the bill sponsor as chair of the nonprofit caucus for all of her work in partnership over the interim. That the numbers that were highlighted during the presentation just scratched the surface of the amount of investment that not just the chair has made, but also many members of this committee and of the legislature to really partner and engage with the nonprofit sector. And I think that was very much demonstrated yesterday with Nonprofit Day of the legislature with over 110 nonprofits. It's really a testament to just the growing partnership and engagement between the sector and the legislature. And this just offers another opportunity and pathway to continue that partnership and relationship with community organizations. And so I just want to really emphasize the support of the sector and just strengthening the state's investment, making sure that we can propose innovative ideas to meet community need, but overall just strengthening public and private partnerships in the state. This bill tackles each of those objectives and visions for the sector to strengthen the work that we do every single day, and just urge your support for this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. Leah Cartwright, Leacartwright, here today on behalf of Foster Kinship and Boys Town, Nevada, two public nonprofits here in the state. Foster Kinship specifically had a statement for me to read. Unfortunately, they are providing services today. So for over a decade, Foster Kinship, Nevada's leading nonprofit dedicated to supporting kinship families, has worked directly with thousands of caregivers and children across the state. As a public nonprofit, we rely on a patchwork of funding sources, grants, donations, and limited state and federal funds to provide critical services like legal navigation, financial assistance, trauma-informed respite, and caregiver education. As others have said before me, this bill will streamline and strengthen the ability of Foster Kinship in Boys Town, Nevada to bridge those gaps in services in the state and make sure that services are given and resources are provided to the folks who need them most. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Shane Piccinini, Shane Piccinini. I am with the Food Bank of Northern Nevada. And yes to everything that was said before. I would just like to add that we have got a partner agencies around 155. Many of those are nonprofit organizations themselves. And it is really important that we're able to support everybody who helps us as the food bank do the work that we do. We're grateful to the work that the Legislative Nonprofit Caucus has done over the interim. We thank the bill sponsor for bringing this forward, and we thank the committee for taking the time to hear the bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Eric Jang, ERICJENG. Executive Director of One API Nevada, advocating and empowering the fast-growing Asian Pacific Islander American community here in strong support of AB 254. We also want to thank the sponsor, Chair Muscat, and also the strong collaboration, public-private sector partnership in the interim with the Nonprofit Caucus and from Grants Lab and United Way's Nonprofit Connection. Nevada's population has grown significantly, and our community development needs those resources. I'm just wrapping up our advocacy day yesterday. We brought tens of dozens of nonprofit partners to Carson City, and they're always asking where can they find the resources just a little bit to jumpstart or just bring them to the next level for all these folks that's putting in their volunteering time or just starting to help they can address specific needs for their community. AB 254 is a necessary step towards empowering our local organization to address these challenges through targeted projects. And we urge you to support AB 254 to support our community through localized and nonprofit-driven work that we do. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Let's go down in Las Vegas. You may begin. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair, and to all Assembly Committee members. For the record, my name is Sally Balecha. It's SALLY space BALECHA. As the President of Desert Mountain Region for the National Federation of Filipino American Association, a nonprofit organization to empower our 270,000 Filipino Americans in Nevada, I strongly support AB 254. This bill funds nonprofit organizations that directly benefits Nevada community. It ensures resources go where they're needed most while maintaining transparency and accountability. I urge for your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas that would like to testify in support of AB 254? Seeing none, AVH, can you please open the lines?
To testify in support of Assembly Bill AB 254, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Vice Chair Gonzalez, members of the committee, my name is Gil Loeb with the Charter School Association of Nevada. I'm here today to express our strong support for AB 254. I wanted to thank this bill sponsor for this important bill. Charter schools are deeply embedded in our local communities, and we work to provide high-quality education while also addressing the broader needs of students and families. This grant program creates an opportunity to support initiatives that enhance educational access, student well-being, and community engagement. We urge your support for this bill to help strengthen community-driven initiatives that uplift families, neighborhoods, and students across Nevada. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. AVH, next caller, please.
Hello, my name is Hugh Lee, Hieule. As on my personal time and my personal capacity as a nonprofit management student that will be graduating at UNLV next year, this bill helps us provide more opportunities for all the students in UNLV who are getting their nonprofit degree. And hey, it helps out with the community and it builds an inspiration for new leaders. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. AVH, next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca and members of the Legislative Operations and Elections Committee. My name is Lisa Habakhorst, Lisa Habaghorst, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Spread the Word Nevada. Spread the Word Nevada is the largest children's literacy nonprofit in the state, started 24 years ago in my home, and now serving over 57,000 children monthly across the state with family literacy training, mentoring, and book distribution programs. And I welcome the opportunity to testify in support of AB 254 this afternoon. As a mid-sized nonprofit in our great state, I see great value in creating a system of equal footing and opportunity for all public nonprofits to have access to funding. AB 254 levels the playing field for all of us and puts our focus where it should be, on our constituents. It also allows the Office of Federal Assistance to set eligibility for projects that are most needed by the state during a certain grant cycle. I also think that the accountability of this system, such as this, would be much greater and ensure our nonprofits are doing what they propose to do with the requested funding. I would guess that this new way of opening up potential funding to all of Nevada's nonprofits might certainly bring about more collaboration amongst our sector to tackle major issues we face together. So many are doing great work. Let's give all of them an equal opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you so much. AVH, next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Gonzalez, members of the committee. This is Anthony Curry, Alpha November Tango Hotel Oscar November Yankee, Charlie Uniform Romeo Romeo Yankee. I want to thank Chair Mosca and Mr. Dixon for this presentation, and I will just ditto the rest of the comments that have been in support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. AVH, next caller, please.
Good evening, Vice Chair and Assembly Committee members. My name is Kip Ortenberger, Kipportenburger. I'm the Director of Strategy at Vegas PBS and Southern Nevada Public Television. On behalf of our organization, which is also a nonprofit, we share our support of AB 254. We believe a structured community project grant program will provide more transparency and equitability on how state funding is allocated to the nonprofit sector. Also, given the application reporting structures that will be built as part of the bill, we feel this is a great opportunity for state agencies and the legislature itself to better understand how nonprofits can support greater statewide economic, community, and social impact. And finally, we believe a formal grant process will foster greater engagement and collaboration between the nonprofit sector, our legislature, state agencies, and of course, the new Office of Federal Assistance itself. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. AVH, next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 401.
Hello.
You're muted. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Tamika Henry. I'm the Executive Director of the Abodo Collective, and I'm testifying in support of AB 254. For small nonprofits like ours, AB 254 can unlock access to state funds that are necessary for us to continue the work that we do with our local community. So I just want to say that I am in full support of AB 254. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. AVH, next caller, please.
Hi, my name is Jordan Hankins, and I am the founder and executive director of the Southern Nevada Black Educators Initiative. And I am in full support of Assembly Bill 254. I also believe that having access to state funds is just going to allow us to support community, the children in the community, and also the educators so much more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. AVH, next caller, please.
Chair, the public line is open and working. We have no additional callers in support at this time.
Thank you so much. I will now close the testimony in support and open testimony in opposition. If you would like to testify in opposition to AB 254, please come to the table. We will start in Carson City. Thank you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be with you. Every day, my name is Janine Hansen, and I'm representing Nevada Families for Freedom. Every day in the legislature, as I testify in different bills, there are numerous nonprofits who are in direct philosophical opposition to what we believe. We find that continuously because we believe in less government, lower taxes, and more individual responsibility. And therefore, we have nonprofits always seeking more government money, more government help, and more government. One example of this I would mention is Planned Parenthood. They receive a lot of federal money, and I'm not sure about the state money, but we have often been in opposition in this building with them on numerous issues. There have been a few occasions where we were able to come together on the same thing, and that's always a wonderful thing. But we are concerned about the fact that so much of the money continually goes to organizations which have such a different philosophy of expanded government instead of less. I was very pleased with the intent of the amendment, which wanted a merit-based program and had increased accountability. I think that was very positive. I appreciate Chair Mosca in changing it from earmarks, which are open to a lot of corruption, to this kind of a program, and I think that's very admirable, and we appreciate that. But our concern remains the same, that so many of these nonprofits that get money from the government are involved in empire building and continually expand for more government and more government and more government. And so we're concerned about that, and that's why we oppose this bill. But we love you all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hansen. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else wishing to testify in opposition to AB 254? Seeing none in Carson City, let's go down to Las Vegas. Anybody wishing to testify in opposition to AB 254 in Vegas? Seeing none, we'll move to the phone lines. AVH, can you please open the lines for anybody who would like to testify in opposition to AB 254?
To testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 254, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Iris Stone, IRISSTONE, and I echo the comments that Ms. Janine Hansen just made, and I'm in total agreement with what she mentioned. Therefore, I also do not support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much, AVH. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Oscar Williams again. I'm opposed to AB 254 because it's a bad bill for taxpayers. The funding mechanism, we'll see whether it's state funds, federal funds, it's taxpayer funds. For me, I think the big concern is nonprofit that is supposed to be non-governmental, but is primarily funded through government taxpayer funds. The Children's Cabinet happens to be a great example. 97% funded by taxpayer funds in the tune of $128 million. That's a lot of cheese. The NGOs or these nonprofits in the funding mechanisms can be easily biased in a way, pursuing ideological goals of a majority party of the legislature. And I just see there's some problems with that. If you could maybe limit it to these contributions to maybe only 10% of what the revenue is, that would, I think, spread it out more, which might help more people, and would maybe limit the soft government operation that is the essence of what this bill really is. And in terms of funding, I want to finish on this point. Stuff like this and many other bills that we've seen through this committee all have this unfunded mandate. And to me, if all of it was to pass, we're going down the path of a state income tax. And I oppose that. So, you know, without a better funding mechanism, with the biases inherent into it and lack of controls, I got some problems with it. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for holding this meeting, Chair, and all committee members. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. AVH, next caller, please.
Hi, I just want to say that baby voice is not with me. I don't have babies with me. Anyway, my name is Katrin Ivanov, and I am in opposition of this bill. I love nonprofit organizations. I volunteer for a lot of them. Me and my kids volunteer for Save the World. I don't mind volunteering. I don't mind giving my own money to that, but I am against taxpayer money used for nonprofit organizations, especially after we see what happened with USAID. They was giving our money away like hotcakes for things that taxpayers should not be paying for. I do appreciate the nonprofit organizations' work. I don't mind people volunteering, but the taxpayers' money should be used for things that directly affect all the taxpayers. And if you have that much extra money, like last year, the last session you guys had, you had the Christmas bill last minute that pretty much a bunch of legislators gave money to their favorite nonprofits, and even one of the legislators had to leave because they put in the RJ that she actually get a salary of, if the memory serves me correct, $2,500, like $500,000 for a yearly salary with the same nonprofit that she voted to give money to. So until those things are fixed, I believe that not one nonprofit should be getting taxpayers' money. If you have extra money that we pay taxes with, give it back to us, the taxpayers, and we'll give it to the nonprofit we want to give it to. You should not be deciding what to do with the extra money you have from me. And if you don't have extra money, they should not be going to nonprofits. They should be going to schools to make sure the veterans are taken care of. We have a bunch of homeless people. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the nonprofits that were mentioned, I like and I support. And I
Thank you,
donate
Ms.
my
Patrice,
time to
so
them.
much. You can continue to submit your comments to the committee. You are at your 2 minutes. AVH, next caller, please.
Chair, we have no additional callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much. I will now open the testimony for those who would like to testify in neutral for AB 254. We will start here in Carson City. Please begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Assembly members and Vice Chair. First, I want to express Akia Sanders for the record, A-K-E-I-A, last name Sanders, S-A-N-D-E-R-S, and I do serve as the Director of the Office of Federal Assistance. First, I would like to express our appreciation for the opportunity to participate in this important discussion. Expanding access to community-focused funding is a crucial step in ensuring that resources reach the organizations and initiatives that serve Nevada's communities. We are encouraged to see these conversations taking place and value the opportunity to contribute. As the state's centralized office for federal financial assistance, the Office of Federal Assistance plays a key role in supporting Nevada's agencies, stakeholders, and community members in navigating and securing federal funding. Additionally, we administer the state grant matching program and provide technical assistance to ensure efficient and effective grant processes statewide. While Assembly Bill 254 does not specify where the community project grant program will ultimately be housed, we recognize that its purpose and administrative requirements could align with OFA's existing functions. We acknowledge the proposed amendment that identifies OFA as the administrator of the program and the ability for OFA to act as a clearinghouse to ensure efficiency and transparency. And we appreciate the confidence placed in our office's expertise and infrastructure. At this time, OFA remains neutral on where the program is housed. Again, our focus remains on ensuring that any grant program serving Nevada's community is administered efficiently, transparently, and in alignment with best practices. Should it be determined that OFA is the appropriate entity to support the implementation of this program, we are committed to collaborating with legislators and stakeholders to ensure its success. We appreciate being included in this discussion and look forward to seeing how this initiative develops. OFA stands ready to assist as needed to support the efficient and transparent administration of grant programs that benefit our state. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to testify in neutral on AB 254? Seeing none, we'll go down to Las Vegas. Seeing none, we will go to AVH for the phone.
To testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 254, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. I will now close the testimony in neutral on AB 254, and I would like to invite Chair Mosca back up to make closing remarks.
Thank you so much, committee, for your questions, for considering this policy. I want to thank all those who are in the work helping people. And it's not about the nonprofits, it's about the work that they do for people in Nevada. No matter where they live, in the rurals or in the south or the north, and no matter who you represent, we know we need to help people of our state to have every opportunity possible. So thank you for considering the bill.
Thank you so much. With that, I will now close the hearing on AB 254, and I will allow our chair some time back to resume chairing.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I think the chair that was here before is a much cuter chair than myself, so thank you for sharing it with me. And at this time, we'll move on to the last item of our agenda, which is public comment. Every person has 2 minutes to provide testimony, and written public comment may also be submitted to the committee up to 24 hours after the meeting. I will remind you of the call-in number, 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 841-9166-9502. And please, public comment is for items pertaining to the Legislative Operations and Election Committee and not on the two bills that were heard today. Is there anyone in Carson City here to give public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to Las Vegas. Anyone in Las Vegas? Seeing none, AVH, can we please go to the phone line for public comment?
If you'd like to provide public comment, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon. My name is Ellen Gifford, ELLENGIFFORD. The bill AB 261, which was just passed in the work session, reads as a duplication of the existing statute NRS 269927. When the people of Nevada's counties elect their county
Thank you, Ms. Giffords. We have already considered
them.
that bill, but you're more than welcome to comment on anything else within legislative operations and elections.
I thought if it wasn't a hearing that I could speak. I apologize. Very well then. Can I start over?
Yes, within the purview of the committee. Yes, you can start over.
Okay, well, I hope this is within the purview. I'm so sorry. Nevada has a law addressing harassment, which is a crime punishable by imprisonment. Harassment includes threatening someone's life, among other threats of harm. This law applies to anyone, anywhere in Nevada. Nevada also has a law that describes what a person can do to protect themselves if a crime of harassment is performed against them. There is a process in place. There is a clear guidance. There is some level of recourse given to victims of harassment, whether they are a candidate, a judicial officer, a juror, or a cashier. These existing laws cover all harassment victims. It's troubling to know that members of Nevada's Assembly have been victims of this crime. It is even more troubling that the steps that can be taken for protection were not taken, perhaps due to being unaware of the existing law. These steps can be taken immediately, which they should be when your life is threatened. There should be no 30-day wait for a report from the Secretary of State, followed by another investigation by the Attorney General. A death threat is a death threat. Nevada has a law addressing the duties of the Secretary of State. Included in those duties are investigations of civil matters. Criminal matters are not included. Threats against our lives are criminal matters. An existing law enforcement measure must be applied as soon as possible. AB 123 does not protect anyone. Existing laws do, and it's important that everyone knows they are in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next caller.
Hello, this is Katrina Ivanov again. I just wanted to mention that I don't know what's the procedures for you taking our opinion into consideration, but for example, AB 123 is 94% no, and I'm talking Nelly's, what I got from the Nelly's report. AB 235 is 93% no, AB 328 is 84% no, and SB 245 is 90% no. This is not just simple no. This is a hell no. And yet, you guys seem to not hear us when we talk. I'm not saying specifically this committee. That would probably be a comment that I'll make in almost every committee that I talk to at the end of the committee session. I just want to find out, is there any way that you guys even look at analysis in our comments? Because from where I'm standing, and not just me, I'm speaking about others as well, it doesn't seem like you guys are listening to our opinions. And if there is any other ways of you kind of listen to us, please let us know what that is. We're trying to use the tools that you have given us, and it doesn't seem to get to some of you. And I hope that changes in the future. Maybe you're really busy and you forgot to look at an analysis. So I'm hoping that to remind you, please look at our opinions on analysis. Isn't that why you guys put it on? And I'm looking forward to working with all of you and passing some good legislation and not passing a bad one. Please think about the taxpayers and the voters.
Thank you, caller. We're at 2 minutes. We appreciate you. Next caller.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Iris Stone, IRIS-STONE. AB 123 had a hearing last Tuesday, but there was a last-minute amendment that was rather significant. The original AB 123 was pre-filed on January 25, and then the amendment was submitted on March 19, and represents a complete reversal of the original intent of this bill. The original bill isolates and targets political candidates from engaging in harassment. The amendment is worded just the opposite and is, quote unquote, designed to protect the safety and wellness of candidates for public office, unquote. What happened to warrant such a drastic change?
But most importantly, this bill duplicates NRS 200.571 under the rubric of harassment and stalking. The harassment clause outlines clear consequences for violations which, by the way, are repeated verbatim in this proposed bill. Isn't anyone subject to harassment equally victimized? What is the need for AB 123, I will ask. While I condemn any harassment, the law should apply to all Nevadans equally. Why create a special process tailored for candidates? My last observation is regarding the role of the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State, possibly with the help of county clerk, is instructed to, quote, write a report to the candidate within 30 days describing the alleged conduct, unquote. Secretary's responsibility for investigations are limited to civil cases such as security, Ponzi schemes, investment fraud, corporate ownership fraud, and election fraud, duplicate voters, voter challenges, etc. It does not include criminal cases such as harassment or stalking. Therefore, let's remove the SOS as the middleman and have candidates work directly with the state attorney general's criminal investigators. And if the attorney general office deems it necessary to engage with the Secretary of State, then let them do so. AB 123 is superfluous, and NRS 200.571 is adequate for the purpose and the intent of this statute. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next caller.
Chair, we have no additional callers for public comment.
Okay, thank you so much. Seeing no further business before us, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.